Hey there, Zlatko here. Welcome to What is My Brain podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I get the opportunity to chat with fellow founders and business operators about their journey and how they got to where they are now, where they are going, and how they're going to get there. I'm planning on bringing guests and touching on topics such as running multiple businesses, executing ideas, and just spitballing about random topics and current events. It's a casual conversation, and that will hopefully bring value to anyone that decides to listen. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. Awesome. Victoria, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I originally reached out to you because I saw you on Twitter and you have a newsletter that I signed up for called SaaS Growth. What is it? It's just SaaS Growth, right?
Yeah.
SaaS Growth. And so I wanted to get you on the podcast because I've been dabbling in the SaaS world for, a few years. And I just wanted to have a really nice conversation about building products, your background and everything you did. So I'd love to have you introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background of how you started, where you are now, and where you're going, because I know you're also building your personal brand and a lot of different things. We're kind of in the same wheelhouse. So I'd love to just kind of chat about all those things and have you introduce yourself.
Great. No, thank you very much for having me at your podcast. It's great to see the power of Twitter. I must say that I started to build a network on LinkedIn, and I was impressed by how powerful it is, and still is, because I'm not active on LinkedIn, but I'm still getting people reaching out. And it's impressive about all these new opportunities and collaborations that are just sprouting from networking and talking to people. So yeah, Twitter, definitely. I started with Twitter, and I'm very happy that you reached out, because I'm always happy to talk about SaaS. Actually, a few minutes ago, I had another interview, and the person who interviewed me, she said that she never used the word SaaS so much in a sentence when introducing somebody. So yeah, that was very funny. I must say that I ended up in the SaaS world by accident. I was very sure about my trajectory in the academia. I was a researcher, a PhD student. I was in a research group, investigation, doing different stuff. When at some point something hit me, and I said, "Okay, I'm tired of the 9 to 5, and I just want to experience something else. So let me pack my things, go on an island." I went to Greece and just try to do something else. And then I asked myself, "Okay, what I'm good at?" And I'm good at writing. So I said, okay, let's try this freelancing thing. freelance writing, yeah. But my previous background was in the event industry. So I reached out to SaaS companies who are in the event industry, because obviously this is a topic I knew best.
Right.
I wouldn't reach out to, I don't know what, to artificial intelligence company, because what I'm going to write and what's the value to provide. Yeah, exactly. And I just started to send cold emails to different founders, to CMOs, until somebody said that, hey, we're interested. And this is how it all happened. I started to work with a French Colombian SaaS company that I'm still collaborating with for more than 5 years already. And this is how I started to learn from them and other companies that I was writing for. I started to learn more about the SaaS industry, and it hooked me. I realized that it's so fascinating, especially, it hooked me through, first of all, this feeling of a startup. We're a small team. Because obviously I started to work with smaller teams that grow over time. But all this enthusiasm and all this passion and all this vision that we're here to do something, okay, not to change the world, obviously, because I think it's silly to say that you're building a company to change the world, but this desire to just create things and do something new. And the way I see the SaaS industry is that SaaS companies are creating the infrastructure of internet. It's like creating the roads, creating the trains, creating the all this is happening, and this is also happening in parallel in the metaverse with the blockchain engineering and all. Mm-hmm. It's a different world completely, but in the Web 2.0 SaaS industry, they're creating the infrastructure. So so this is how I end up there in the SaaS world, and I
I love
started to
it.
learn more about it and to investigate. And now I launched, yes, my own thing. I'm creating content. I spend most of my time checking what other SaaS companies are doing, reverse engineering their growth practices, because there are some growth practices that we're not aware of, but you can definitely see that this is what they're trying to do. Or I'm checking interviews, listening to founders, to CMOs, to see what's up, what's new. And I'm writing 5 growth practices per week. They're premium content, but also I'm offering one growth practice for those who subscribe to the newsletter.
Cool.
So yeah, this is what I'm doing in parallel, collaborating with other SaaS companies and doing cool stuff with cool people in the SaaS world.
I love it. I love it. And that's how we
Yeah,
met too. So that's
yeah.
really awesome. So let me ask you, what are some when you're talking about some of these like growth tactics and your reverse engineering, what kind of drives you to find that company that you're like, wait, what are these guys doing? Or let me reach out to them and figure out why they have such a high trajectory of growth and all these other things. And then my follow-up question to that would be, more recently, what sort of tactics have you seen where you actually say, oh, wow, this is really interesting and so many people are not doing this and they need to be doing it because there is, whether it's, I mean, it could be like paid growth, it could be organic growth, it doesn't matter, but I'm just curious to know like what those next things are that you're seeing that you're like, these people are doing this. Because I just want to backtrack. I read an article today. Obviously, you probably know Dropbox. They had a very interesting way of growing their business. So they had this whole thing where they give you 2 gigabytes free of space, and then you would invite somebody else, and then you would gain a little bit more space, and then all of a sudden they started converting a lot of these free customers to paid customers, and it was almost like the thing in the email footer that people would say sent from my Hotmail email, and then people click on it and they sign up for it. Was kind of that same exact thing. So long story short, long-winded question, but what are some of those? How are you finding those people, and then what are you seeing that's really catching your eye?
Okay, so I have a database of a few thousands of SaaS companies, and
Okay.
it's my database, and it's not that I'm putting there all SaaS companies. I don't go to G2 Crowd or to Capterra and just copy
Yeah.
paste everything. I'm putting there the companies that are really interesting. And I can't exactly tell you. It's a combination of feeling. Okay, so obviously, first of all, it's the website. And I like to say that the website is not just a place where you showcase your value, but where we can see, we people, the
Yeah.
users, your innovative and spirit and experiments you're doing. So I check the website and I'm seeing if a company is trying to do lots of things, interactive content, communities. They're trying to create new things. So this is the type of company that goes into my list. And I'm just researching. I'm just curious. I'm following different SaaS blogs. I'm following different people on Twitter. I'm also discovering different people on Twitter. And by the way, now I'm very hooked on indie hackers. I like very much because they're not following the trends and they're actually experimenting and trying new things
Mm-hmm.
that big companies, corporate B2B SaaS, they didn't
Yeah.
even heard about these practices. But I'm in love with Miro. Miro is a huge company,
Yeah.
but I'm
They're
in love
great.
with
We use
what.
them internally for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm very interested in. They're using lots of growth practices, and first of all, there are 2 growth practices from Miro that caught my attention. And I can't say that all SaaS companies can or should apply these growth practices
Right.
because there are so many differences, and you have to, this is another topic that I see that everybody's chasing growth hacks and to try the next thing, but we have to develop a more strategic
Mm-hmm.
approach to growth and understand exactly why and if this growth practice is good for the company or not, and be patient and see if it gives results in time, not just jump from growth tactic or hack
Right.
or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's but and Miro is great at building this growth vision and growth strategy, because Miro, for example, is a B2C to B company.
Right. Right.
They are based on land and expand. They are attracting users inside the company, and these users are acquiring other users inside the company. because team collaboration, because hey,
Hmm.
try this platform is great for brainstorming. Hey, I have a design meeting, the designer pulls up the Miro board and everybody from marketing, sales, customer success are on the same board. And then more teams inside the company, they start adopting Miro, and
Hmm.
then the executives are popping up. Hey, no, first of all, the chief security officer pops up
Right.
and says, hey, this is safe.
Yeah,
First of
yeah,
all,
yeah,
who
yeah,
are
yeah.
they? And here comes another small growth tactic from Miro that is absolutely brilliant. Miro offers almost everything ungated. You can access guides, books, ebooks, whatever. They gated one book, one ebook, one white paper on compliance and certifications, because they know that if a client, a company it's ready to go for the enterprise plan, the CSO or the chief information officer, they're
Yeah.
interested in reading this white paper and they're going to download it. And this email is very, very precious because they know that the intent of purchasing the product is big, and they can reach out and they can have a different level, different kind of conversation, like
Mm.
B2B. So I love this, how smart they are about that.
Wow, that's
And
really, really interesting. I
yeah,
had no idea about that. And
yeah.
have you gotten any insight in terms of their trajectory of growth since, because they started what, like a year and a half ago or something like that, or 2 years ago?
Miro, they started in 2000. Oh, they're like 10 years, or they started long ago. They started like
Whoa.
they changed names. That was color board, board of collaboration, or I don't know. They have a very interesting story, and they started as they actually changed their wheels while driving, because they build everything on Flash 5, then they have to change completely with users and everything to another language, and it was a mess. And something changed when they decided to change the strategy, and they decided that we're not building a tool, we're building an ecosystem.
Right, right,
Because
right,
the
right.
second growth strategy that they're strong at is building an ecosystem. And what it means, ecosystem, they're transforming their users or fans
Hmm.
into creators, first of all, people who are
Hmm.
creating templates, community members, experts. They have an expert marketplace. I mean, they're involving all the stakeholders in
Hmm.
something, in different projects, in different type of events and community activities. And this is how they're not only building just a tool, they're building an entire ecosystem, they're building an economy around Miro. Because, for
Wow.
example, the experts, they're getting certified, and they can then showcase their expertise by getting clients who want to learn Miro. The same thing is doing Notion, for example. They're certifying the Notion consultants who then can use their Notion knowledge to get money, to generate revenue.
Yep, yep,
Webflow is doing the same, but with Webflow
yep,
is even more interesting, because they're not allowing, they're empowering users to become educators. So how many YouTube videos are on Webflow, or or Webflow educators are out
yep,
there who are making money from master classes on how to use Webflow? So
yep.
these SaaS companies are basically building economies around their
They
product.
are. They are. They are. And I'm a fan of all of those companies. And the one thing I would say about Miro, and I mean that just blew my mind that they've been around for 10 years, because that just shows you that, because I almost, now that I think about it, I think they were called like real time board or something.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Something
yeah.
like
Okay, so I do remember that because I remember using the product, but it wasn't that good. I think the one I just remember one day being like, I need to scratch something on a piece of paper. I went on Miro, signed up really quickly. There was already like a bunch of templates and stuff. I just opened up a blank one, and I just remember sending it to my team, and everyone being like, "Oh, this is actually really interesting. Like how this works. Like this is super nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, and it integrates with this, and it does this." And the user interface, I think, to me was like the absolute best thing, because they really worked on the design of the app so well. Like it was done to the point where there was no lag time. I mean, the infrastructure of the entire product is top notch in my opinion. And same thing with Webflow. I'm a huge Webflow person. I love Webflow, just from every perspective. Building it, the company, the story of the company, even how how many times it failed and how many times they had to get back up and try it again and all these other things. So it's very inspirational. But at the same time, I definitely see what you mean by building economies. That's really interesting way to look at it. What are some other
Look,
companies that you're seeing out there doing that? Because I know like Asana is trying to get into that as well a little bit now.
okay, the poster child is Atlassian. In 2021, December 2021, or actually December, yeah, December 2021, they announced that their marketplace generated 2 billion, 1 billion, I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
mean, people selling their Atlassian related apps, integrations, and everything.
Uh huh.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah,
And
that's
what?
that's that's huge. That's like almost like I'm sure that's pretty close to some of the bigger app stores that are out there, like the Google App Store, whatever that is. So yeah, that's amazing. So
Exactly.
I always looked at Atlassian as like this big enterprise company that just had all these tools in house and all this, and we used them for a while at my agency, and we had to switch over just because it was not the most user friendly. I know that they're making a lot of improvements there, but man, like if I compared, I know it's different. It's like apples to oranges, but like the Miro side and then like Atlassian, it's like night and day to me. And I feel like Miro has hit that a nail on the head really, really well with like design, user interface, flow, all the integrations that they have with the project management tools and different things like that. So
And it was a huge change of vision because they changed their name.
yeah,
They went for the name of the painter Juan Miro.
yeah,
Yeah, so and the whole essence of the brand changed, I think. And with this, it's like an identity shift that actually was felt in the whole company. I believe I would love to have a chat with Andrei Husid, the founder,
uh-huh.
and see what exactly he had in mind.
Hey,
But
you're
it's
on Twitter. Just reach out, and who knows? You never know. Like it might be
yeah,
one of
yeah,
those things, and
yeah, yeah.
I'll even reach out. Maybe we can have a 3-way call with him or a
Yeah,
3-way
yeah, that would be
podcast and
great.
talk.
That would be great. That would be great.
Uh,
But by the way, since you're talking about the growth practices, you said that you had to sign up to Miro and to do the. Okay, the sign up is easy, but another growth practice that I absolutely love, and I see that indie hackers are using it and small SaaS companies are using it. This transition from sign up, try for free, no credit card required, but now it's try it, no account required. You don't have to make an account. You just go in, click on
right.
the CTA and the call to action, and you just can try the product. Like Tally is, you can create forms on Tally without registering. Typefully,
Yeah.
which is a Twitter thread maker, and much more. I mean, a
Right.
tool. Also, you can just test it. Okay, you can test it. They provide limited features, but then you have to sign up with your Twitter. But still, you can see the product. They don't even have a landing page.
Right.
Octopus also, they have a very curious, very weird landing page that you just see the product again, the dashboard. So yeah, but the thing is that I'm not sure how they are tracking growth through using this practice, because you don't get don't get any signups, so you can't
Yeah.
actually track maybe the number of visitors, the number of tries, but I'm not sure how is this converting into growth, but I'm sure it's a very interesting practice, and I see more and more companies using it.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And how are you, kind of going back to my other question, how are you going out of your way to like find these companies that interest you in terms of, figuring out, for example, like a Miro that's been around 10, that's not necessarily like a startup or whatever it is. So I'm looking at like maybe, let's say the last companies that came up in the last 3 to 4 years, like which ones are you catching right now that you're like, oh, these guys they've figured out something completely unique, whether it's using social media in a different way or using Twitter in a different way or whatever that is, because I feel like everything now is shifting more to a couple of different things. I think that the overarching word is community, and community trickles down into the Twitter, the LinkedIn, the different things. Whether it's in Discord, whether it's on Slack, or any of these things, like people are now building almost communities before they actually build the actual product. So I'm just curious. I'm like, Are you finding any early stage like startups or 2 to 3, 4 year startups that are really catching your attention in terms of how they're approaching their growth and what they're doing?
Yes, obviously there are some. I have some favorites, but before that, I would like to mention that I see more pillars in
Yeah.
the growth of young startups, especially now. For example, with community, I would say that there is a difference between community and audience, because on Twitter and LinkedIn we have audiences, but when you bring these audiences in house via Circle or Slack, or
Yeah.
you actually own this audience. It's a community. If Twitter disappears overnight, you lose all of your audience, but having them in house, it's
Right.
different, and you build connections differently. Second pillar is I'm seeing more and more SaaS companies, even the young ones or even the smaller ones, in terms of revenue, they're moving from inbound marketing to media marketing. To
Okay.
they're building media products. I mean, since you like Webflow, for example, you know about the Webflow TV. Okay, it's a huge company that built a media brand, like Profitwell. They build Recure Media, or how it's called. It's also a media brand. But also
Hmm.
there are smaller companies that are also building media products. For example, 360 Learning. I'm not sure how are they in terms of revenue, how small it is or how big it is. But 2 3 years ago, they launched a docu series. Okay, they hired a new content marketer, I think, or director of marketing, and they showed they filmed like 10 or something episodes showing how she's integrating into the team, how she's taking over, how she's building the
Uh,
strategy. And it's like a drama series, like you're watching drama.
oh,
It's like,
wow.
yeah, it's very interesting. It's very, like, you really feel like you are watching a drama show, but it's
Yeah.
SaaS. It's SaaS.
It's crazy. It's like the behind the scenes stuff that everybody loves to watch. They just kind of put that front and center. That's really awesome. That's really. You said that's
Exactly.
360 Learning. That's the
Yeah,
company.
this is how it's called. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Exactly. And third is the personality of putting a face on the company. For example, last week I recommended two SaaS companies because of their founder,
Hmm.
because I follow them on Twitter. I know what they're doing, the transparency level of the company. And it's the Social Sprout Index data shows that people care about founders being out there, being active on social media. It doesn't matter if they're building in public or if they're
Right.
just sharing their insights, thought leadership. And since you asked me the question about younger startups, okay, it's not young, it's Lemlist. It's a French startup, and they are like 3 or almost 4 years on the market, but they reached without any investment around 10 million in annual recurring revenue in 3 years, which is
Wow.
absolutely impressive. And you have to see how is his name? Guillaume Obesh, who is the founder. He is so active everywhere on LinkedIn, on Twitter. They even creating a documentary on how they built Lemlist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they used lots of growth experiments. I don't remember them now. I remember reading an article he wrote about step by step how they build the community, how they build the love for the product. But in this little, it's not an overnight success, obviously 3 years, but it's all about building growth systems and being consistent. you
Yeah.
know everybody talks about quality versus quality, and what I'm saying is that actually it's a triangle. It's quality, quantity, and consistency.
Yep.
Like, if
I
you want
love
to
that.
succeed nowadays, you have to respect
Yeah,
these
you
three,
have to. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, that's a really good way of. I think so. For me, just on the topic of consistency, that's one thing that I've always had a little bit of trouble with in the past, because I am multi passionate and I'm very like ADHD driven. So I come up with an idea today. I'm like, I love it. We should go with this. This is a great new product we can build. Like my mind immediately goes like, I think I found something. And that's honestly one of the one of the apps that I built, that my team and I built, obviously, in 2016, 2017. We launched in 2018. Was actually a peer-to-peer tool rental company called Spare Tools, and basically it's the Airbnb for renting out your tools in your garage. So if you have something that people need to do handiwork or whatever it is, they come to you, that you rent it out to them, they pay through the platform, and then they come bring it back and all these other things. And that was one of those things where I caught it in 2016 when I was doing a home project, and I went on the app store, didn't see anything, and I was like, this is weird. There's always an app for something, there's always something out
Yeah.
there that you can. And 2 years later, I went back and I still didn't see anything. And I was like, how has nobody built anything around this? So I simply told my team, I said, hey, we're going to treat this as like an internal product, and we're going to just go ahead and build it from the ground up. The design, development, we did everything in house. And that was one of those moments where I think that opened me up to being like, what's stopping me from doing this five more times with five different ideas? Like, why not, type of thing. And so I'm always curious about when some of these companies that are, like the Miro, sticking around for 10 years. I mean, they could have easily closed their doors, gone and done something else. And I'm just really, really curious about like what's the sustainability of some of these companies that are, doing these growth hacks and different things. Is it actually like long term, or a lot of these guys doing this to just simply get acquired, and move on to the next thing?
I think there is no answer to that, because every single founder goes into business because of his, her, their reasons.
Right, 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 right.
Somebody wants to get acquired, somebody wants to build, somebody says that, what, I don't care to run an unicorn, I just want to have a sustainable life. Like, for example, Paul Jarvis, you know him. He wrote
Yeah,
the
yeah,
book,
yeah.
the company of one, and he
Yeah,
actually is an advocate of building systems around your company for you to live calmly without stress, to have your company running. And he actually built Fathom Analytics, which is a replacement for Google Analytics, and with all the GDPR craziness and all the bureaucracy around
yeah.
the privacy. And in this case, every single founder is decides what to do and why. First of all, the most important, why.
Right, right. Are you planning on building anything yourself, like any SaaS products that you feel passionate about, that you're like, hey, I want to build something that I can leverage with my personal brand and my newsletter and everything else?
I built SaaS Minds, which is a content product,
Okay.
because I know what I'm good at. I'm good at researching. I'm good at connecting the dots. I'm good at synthesizing and writing. This is what I'm good at. And you know, everybody's like, everybody was saying, nobody will likes newsletters. Who wants to receive more newsletters? Substack. They reached $1 million in revenue. Their users reached $1 million in revenue selling access to their newsletters or
Right,
selling access to content. Knowledge is valuable, especially for this industry, because successful SaaS founders and professionals, they need to be always up to date. They need to be curious. They
yeah,
need to learn, but they don't have the bandwidth. Plus,
right,
the internet is flooded with noise, and you don't know. You want to read a growth hack, and you end up watching a cute cat video on YouTube, whatever.
right, 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 right. You go down the rabbit
But
hole.
exactly. But when you pay for a product, when you pay for a content, when you pay for somebody to be your researcher actually on a daily basis, you're committed to actually consume this information and try
Yep.
to learn something from it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't have plans in building a SaaS company, but I am collaborating with some amazing SaaS founders on building new stuff, let's say. And I'm covering the part of marketing, of consulting, advising.
Right,
I'm excited I'm excited to work with SaaS founders, because it's so much energy, so much drive, and I am giving. My value is in terms of marketing, content, strategy. This is what I do, and
right.
I don't want to do things that are out of my reach or out of my
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I completely get that. I completely get that. And in terms of kind of like your newsletter right now, how many subscribers do you currently have?
Well, very few. It's only in the beginning. I have I have around 20 subscribers.
Okay.
Yes,
Nice,
yes.
nice. That's
I launched the website much earlier, but it took me time. You know what happened? I wanted to do lots of things at the same time, and it took me time to simplify and actually
yeah,
synthesize and understand on what to focus. So
I love it.
basically, it's about I'm I'm just starting. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I love it. No,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
listen,
yeah.
that's 20 more than, you had
Then
before.
zero.
So that exactly. And you
Yeah,
own that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
own that, right? Like that's your small network now, and it's going to keep growing. Are you planning on kind of running this thing as like a one person show? Are you kind of in part of that model where you want to run this all, or do you think that you'll end up building a team around you to kind of start like scaling this a little bit more?
I'm playing with both ideas.
Okay.
I'm just gonna see how this evolves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm good doing it by myself right now.
Right.
But if this and when this grows, maybe, yes, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have like a fixed plan. I created this newsletter with the intention to help SaaS founders and professionals. But who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of different markets that you're seeing pop up right now that are sort of like these hot markets. Obviously, productivity has always been like a hot topic. You have the project management tools, you have the, again, going back to the Miro and all these other things. What are some industries that you're seeing that are really tapping into the SaaS world and are fixing problems in certain things? Is it, something maybe in the food industry or something in the, where are you seeing a lot of that stuff kind of going across?
Well, I think this is quite difficult to answer because I'm seeing a different trend. I'm seeing uh, companies who build broad products, general products, and then they go very niche on a vertical. For example, today I discovered My Case, which is a company for lawyers and law firms,
Okay.
which basically helps with managing the company, invoicing, billing, receiving getting paid and all this stuff. But it's so niche and so specific for the law firms. Obviously this product can be used for other companies too, but I like to see that people are going niche to not only survive the red ocean but actually thrive
Yeah.
and build in that specific niche, because we think that if we have a productivity tool then we have to go for the whole market. Maybe not. The
No,
whole
it's usually
market.
not the case.
Exactly, exactly. There are so many gems and so many diamonds in verticals, in niches. Obviously, you don't have to go super niche and to create a product for marketers who write with the right hand. I
Right,
mean, this
right,
is
right,
silly. Yeah,
right.
and speak Spanish. But yeah, I can't say that I mean, and I'm staying away from this idea of hot trend markets
Yeah.
because there is always so much more than what we see in the news and what we see trending, for example.
Right, right. And are you because I kind of this kind of leads me to another topic that I think has been really hot for, the last couple of years, has been like courses and cohorts and different things like that. I feel like you may have something here with all of your research and everything that you're doing to like create some sort of course for, early stage startups or whatever it is, to basically do some sort of initiative around, hey, this is what the companies are doing, and sort of creating a course for SaaS founders that are jumping into it. Is that something on you've been thinking about, or is that something that you're just, I'm not going to do that?
That just happens to be a very interesting idea. Thank you very much. I wrote it down.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad. I'm always happy to because I there's always going to be a kind of a plethora of courses out there. There's going to be people selling all kinds of stuff. My thing has always been, it doesn't matter if you get 5 people or 50 people to your course. If they find the value, they'll spread the word. And I feel like with SaaS, it's always a very complicated, because I myself, I run one service agency and one product agency, and right now we're in the midst of building, at the product side, we're building a tool. Basically what it does is, it, think about think about taking let's take one topic, like one project, Let's call it, let's call it Apple or whatever it is. We use in our agency, we use all these different tools. We use like Asana for project management. We use Zendesk for support tickets. We use Miro for doing like wireframes. We use all these different tools. Then clients, send us sometimes even personal emails, say, "Hey, I want to do this," and it's like, "Why didn't you send in the support ticket?" And we started running into this issue where fragmentation starts to happen. Client communication fragmented at some point, because it goes to one person, it doesn't go to the rest of the team. And then you get something internally where it goes into Asana. Maybe not everybody sees it. Maybe 3 out of the 5 people see that question or that comment. And so my take has always been there needs to be a centralized place, not to replace any of these other tools, but to simply bring everything together into one simple like format. And we call the format timeline. So it's literally a timeline. And we created a Chrome extension for it as well. And basically what it does is that if I'm on any page, whether it's my internal project management tool or it's on the on any website, doesn't matter. Simply what we do is we can highlight any text on the page. We click on the Chrome extension. The Chrome extension does 3 things immediately. One, it takes the URL where you are currently on that website or that tool or whatever it is. It takes also the icon so that it's visually, you can see like, oh, this is, this was in Asana, this was in Zendesk or whatever it is. And then it also pulls in that text, and it basically creates like a blob that has these 3 different items, and you put it into this timeline. And then it's all event based, it's all time stamped, it's all, you can also have different kind of moods. So we can have something like, oh, this was a positive experience, this was a negative experience, this was a neutral experience, and sort of give each event like some sort of rating. And so the reason why we created this is because, first of fragmentation, but the end of part of it is like, when we have a team of 22 people at one of my agencies, and so when we onboard a new client or we onboard a new employee or whatever it is, for that employee, we can simply put them into a project and say, "Hey, go read about Project Apple in this case." And you can get an idea, you can get sort of this overview status that says, "Oh, this has been a really good relationship for our agency. This has, this person has always paid their invoices on time. This person has done these different things." And then simply, if you want to go reference any of those communications, whether it's in email or in Asana or wherever it was, you simply click on that link where you pulled it from, and it takes you right back there. So we're not recreating anything. We're simply giving people almost like a web where they can just go back to that original source. So if it's a support ticket, then you go right back to that support ticket and you can read the whole thing. And so to me, like, that's one of the things we've been fighting is this tool is so wide. It can be used for people tracking their weight. It can be used for project management. It can be used for clients. It could be used for so many things. And I just keep running into this like cycle where I'm like, we need to, and this reminds me because you just said about going like that. My case company, they went super deep into like lawyers, and they were like, well, we have this tool that anybody can use, but we're really going to focus on, let's say, lawyers. And so for me, that's always been a little bit of a battle of how, because to me, I think project managers for the tool that we created, the first starting point should be project managers. Like, we need to go after the people because they're going to eventually invite their group of people, kind of like what Miro, you get one person in there and then they say, okay, go check this out. And then you start inviting 3, 4 other people. And now all of a sudden you have, instead of one user, you have 5 users. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, and I'll show you the visual of the tool. I'm happy to, like, maybe after this podcast or something, I can show it to you because I'm actually really interested to get your advice on it. We're doing some improvements where we have like team collaboration in there right now, where people can invite others into it. They can invite
Oh,
clients
team
if they want.
collaboration, by the way. Sorry, this is a huge, great gateway for B2C to B. When it's
Yeah.
team collaboration, when people can work together on specific projects,
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly what we're
yeah,
building right now. And we're also building preset templates. So we're also building
okay.
templates that, for example, one of the templates, and I said, like, again, this has such a vast majority of use cases. And one of the use cases for me is, for example, people are buying cryptocurrency or buying NFTs or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so imagine just going into this tool and be like, okay, I want to track all of my cryptocurrency purchases, whatever I purchase. I can basically I can give that user a template that says, the template is comprised of where did you buy it, how much did you buy it, and what price did you buy it at. And basically they can go back at any point and look at that transaction and see, oh, it went there. And then they can take that link and go right to the blockchain, see where that transaction happened, and have all that information basically in one place.
I discovered that companies are niching very differently. Some are niching based on audience, others based on industry, others based on use cases,
Right.
other based on geography. It's all about the resources. If you have the resources to personalize your messaging, for example, with the audience, if you niche in your audience, it's very important to know to whom you are talking to,
Right, right.
because it's different. The needs of a marketer are different than the needs of a doctor who
Yeah.
also is managing a project. And the way
Yeah.
you talk to them, you can't use an all size fits all approach to
Correct.
this aspect. This is why when it comes to niching the audience, it's always about your communication marketing campaigns. When it's about niching in terms of industry use cases, it's about how your product vision, because maybe the marketers have different needs and you are okay with changing slightly the product according to their specific needs. So it's all about the resources you have. The more resources you have, the more niches you can conquer. But if you start small, it's also better to niche a bit.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I'd love to show you the tool because I feel like you would have some really, really good insight on it and kind of the overarching thing that we're looking to solve for. And that's one app that, once we kind of get this team collaboration stuff dialed in, I think we have probably about another week and a half of development and some testing. That's really something I'm going to start, working really hard to push it out there. And to your point, that's one of my goals is to be consistent with, you know being transparent online, giving people all the information that's required. We're very big bullish on like security and making sure that things are secure, so anything that people add into those timelines, for example, us as the company, we can't see any information. We don't see anything from the user. So if people want to put
Yeah.
some personal stuff in there, they can, because we don't have access to anything. The only thing that we have access to is the username, the email, and if they're on a paid plan or if they're on a free plan, and that's pretty much that. And
Yeah,
we don't want
but
any other information.
I will be happy to see the tool. But I have just a comment about
Yeah.
compliance. That yes, I mean, you know what you see and you don't see, and you know that you're a safe company. But if you want to go B2C to B, you'll have to get some certifications. There are
Right.
specific, certifications that custom chief information officer will look at, or
Yeah.
see the CEO will look at. But I wanted to ask you, you said about templates. Are you going to allow people the possibility to create templates and maybe share with the rest?
Yeah, exactly. So that we're modularizing these templates so that people can actually build their own as well with different fields. So they can create different custom fields and they can use it however they want. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
they can share it with the community of your
Exactly.
awesome.
That's
This is
that's
also
go-
building an ecosystem, actually.
Exactly. So that's
Yeah.
going to be like, first we're going to do it. You can share it with your team, and then we're going to just try to work through that a little bit. But then we're going to kind of create this whole thing like, oh, people are creating their own templates. So, create like sort of this like marketplace or this app, like,
Yeah.
ecosystem or something like that. So
Awesome.
that's been sort of my project, like baby, because we've been sitting on it for a little bit and there's just like a lot of stuff happening and so on. So but yeah, enough about enough about me on that front. But is there anything else that you feel you want to talk about in terms of SaaS? Anything you're seeing, anything you want to share with people? Like, let's just go for it.
Yeah, maybe since you mentioned transparency, I thought about open startups and companies who are fully transparent.
Yep.
Like, but I remember seeing a very interesting tweet from Patrick Campbell, the founder of Profitwell,
Yeah.
and he was asking if there are any transparent SaaS companies that have more than 20 million in annual recurring revenue, except ConvertKit and Buffer, and there is nothing else. I mean, when companies hit a specific amount of revenue, in terms of revenue, they stop sharing the data publicly. But I'm fascinated with especially with Buffer and what they're doing, because they are so transparent and they're sharing everything with the public. And it's not only how much the CEO is making or what's their salary formula, or they're even sharing their internal experiments, how they tried the 4-day work week and how it worked actually, and how they're continuing with it. And when you are so open and you're assuming your failures and you're saying, hey, I don't know how it's going to be, but this is what we're trying, and you're sharing your lessons, I think it's fascinating in terms of building a brand and increasing brand awareness, and
Yep.
position yourself as a leader out there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And that's one thing I really value about Nathan Barry at ConvertKit too, is because they're very transparent with all of their financials and their growth and everything that they're doing. And I truly love that product. I use it for all of my stuff as
Me
well.
too.
It's a great product, and I love that they've kind of pivoted as well in terms of how they're dealing with their product and how their advertising is. They went from were an email system for creators to now creator platform, basically. Like, they're doing other things. They're integrating payments into their emails and people being able to like buy digital products and all these different things, which I think is really awesome. But the one company that I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if you had a chance to kind of research what they're doing and what they're not doing. Have you researched Hype Fury, the Twitter applicant, like the Twitter client?
I know the company, but I didn't research what they're doing.
Okay,
Yeah, I have it on my list.
okay. Well, they kind of they interested me from a different perspective, is because they came out the gates and they just have all these amazing features for Twitter. Like some stuff that I've never seen anybody else do, which was, I think, sets them apart. And they're really focused on the creator economy and people, being like solopreneurs and different things like that. So whenever you do some research on them, I'd love to talk again and just kind of see, because they've been like at the top of mind with a lot of stuff, because they've, from what I can see, at least on Twitter and other places, that they've had just like huge trajectory in terms of like growth. And I don't know if that's due to their affiliate program that they have or whatever that is, but it's been really awesome. So I highly recommend you take a look at them, because I would be interested to
Will
see what
do.
you
Will
find
do.
out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious now that you mentioned.
Yeah. And in terms of kind of the next steps for you, so what are the things that you're building? What are you currently focused, or what are you focused on, like, going forward as your one man business right now, one woman business, I'm sorry, I should say.
Uh, it, I'm focused on SaaS Minds, obviously,
Hmm.
on and growing my presence on Twitter. That's a big. Actually, it's quite difficult right now because I have to readjust again to be on social media. At some
Yeah.
point, I deleted everything: Facebook, Instagram. I stopped using LinkedIn. I just had to like 2 years of calmness and deep work,
Okay.
and it
Okay.
was really nice. But also, it's nice to be out there. It's nice to be on Twitter. It's nice to interact with people. So I have to rebuild this habit of being on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm collaborating with different SaaS companies in terms of building content marketing strategies, consulting, helping with growth.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, I like discovering new teams, discovering new people,
Hmm.
and actually work with awesome people from SaaS.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
most of the companies that you're working with are the founders and CEOs of those companies. Would you say that they're pretty active on social media overall, or are some of them now starting to lean more into like LinkedIn or Twitter or both? And my follow up question would be, those that are being putting themselves out there and building those individual audiences and things like that, are more of them leaning into LinkedIn or more into Twitter at the moment?
you know it's it's curious because I'm working with both types of founders who are completely absent and those who are very active, and
Okay.
this doesn't make anyone less successful than other. They're just
Right.
going on
Right.
different through different ways. And there are founders who are using LinkedIn because, for example, they build some products for LinkedIn, and there are others who are using Twitter, or others who are using both, or others who are using TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I actually like about growth and SaaS. There is no right way to do things. There is no playbook. You
Right.
can experiment and you can pave your way and you can try new things. And in most cases it will work if it's quality, consistency, and
Yeah.
quantity. If
Yeah.
you respect this framework. Yeah.
I love it. I love that framework. I absolutely love that framework. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else you want to chat about? Anything that's been on your list to chat about?
Well, I was, if one question for you, I was very curious how you are managing your time and your mental energy when you are juggling between so many projects, so many teams, so many products. I'm very curious to know how you are actually entering in deep work, and actually you're also doing this podcast, you're on social media.
Yeah.
How do you organize, especially not so much your time, but your energy? Actually, both your time and energy.
Yeah. So there's been some recent changes over at one of my agencies at the moment, which is requiring me to kind of step back into this day-to-day role that I haven't had to do in about almost like a year. So truthfully speaking, this week has been absolutely draining because I feel like stepping into a lot of the client work again and getting almost reassessed with everything that's going on because I had stepped away and gave the role of day-to-day CEO to somebody else. Fortunately, that person just left last week, and so I kind of have to step back into it. And it's been really draining my creative juices, I would honestly have to say, because I'm now kind of putting out more fires than I'm actually creating, you know, the creative side of my brain and finding solutions and doing different things. But overall, I think for me, the biggest blessing and what I'm really grateful for is that I've built some amazing teams around me that with my studio agency where we're building just SaaS products. The minute that this happened, everyone kind of stepped up and said, "Whatever you need from me, let me know. I'm willing to take over." So that touched my heart in a whole different way. And also, I would say for me, managing different. So for me, I love chaos. I absolutely love chaos. I love being uh, involved in multiple things. I love creativity in every way, shape, or form. And so, more recently, about 2, 3 months ago, I started really dialing into writing. And writing has really, really helped me digest and decongest my brain a little bit more and really lay things out in a different thing. And so now that I'm having to sort of take on another CEO role and I'm CEO of another agency and I'm doing my personal brand and my podcast and building these apps, like it definitely is a lot, but it's also I get these amazing spurts of energy when I enter into those creative spaces that allow me to balance that with some of the client work that I'm actually having to do. So I guess my answer would be one is sort of feeding the other in a way. When I get
Hmm.
really overwhelmed with client stuff, I try to do my best to go into my creative space and just do something
Yeah.
for myself, do some writing, do a podcast like this and talk to
Hmm.
interesting people and get new perspectives on things. And your for even your simple framework and your energy about like sharing, how different founders are dealing with things and getting examples of companies that have been building for 10 years and they couldn't get past a certain point and then they just revamp, they do something, they put a mission behind the company, and then they hit a rocket ship and they just go up. Like there's a lot of the stuff that goes on, and obviously that all requires a lot of hard work and resources and all this. But to me, it's been really energizing to have that creative space, because about even like 4 or 5 months ago, I didn't have that creative space. I didn't have that personal brand that I'm building. I was really starting to feel like, okay, I need to do something around that because I have a lot to share. I have a lot of experiences. I have a lot that I hopefully that people could learn from me, and something that I even like one word that some I can share, and somebody could be like, oh my God, that's amazing. I didn't even think about it that way. That's literally all. I'm not here to build a unicorn. I'm not doing any of that. I'm focused on niche businesses and really leveling out my lifestyle a little bit more and focusing kind of like what you're doing on more of like a one person show, one person business, with the exception of having a team in the background that is dealing with a lot of the social stuff and transcribing our podcast, all these different things that we could pull content. That's not me. I'm not really detailed, go into like really deep into things. I burn very bright and I like go really, really fast at some point because I have so many different ideas in my brain and ways of doing it that if I can collaborate with my team to bring that to life and see them win in alongside me in that way, it's a very collective thing for me. And so I know that I can't do everything myself, and I'm okay with that. And I'm even more okay with bringing the right people on board to handle those things. So managing a lot of it is really, really tough, but I think having the diversification really keeps me engaged too, because I don't like to be standardized into like one thing. It's just not how my brain works. So but I'm working on a lot of it. It's not a perfect world. It's not any of that. I'm working on a lot of it. You know, I go to therapy. I try to do things for myself. I go exercise and do all those things. So I'm trying to keep a really, really good balance. But yeah, I just really love chaos. I think that's what it is.
That's fascinating because you're basically nurturing yourself from. I mean, at some, you know that in some cases maybe people are waiting for things to be perfect to start something, but things are never perfect the way you think they should be.
No,
Just
no.
better start now and do your
Yeah,
thing. Deal with the chaos. Deal day by day. Like don't stress much about.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's always been that's kind of what I've been also like putting out into the world of social media and my posts and everything that I'm doing is really focusing on giving people the tools and the mentality about just take action on something, just start something. Even if you're at a day job, if you have an idea to make a better iPhone case, just start digging into it, see what other people are doing, see what people are not doing, and go with your own vision, go with what you have in mind. You may fail, that's okay. Go on to the next thing. That just gave you another set of tools that you can use for your next
Yeah.
business or your
Exactly.
next idea. So the journey is what I'm really all about. I love the route to getting somewhere, like even starting my first agency in 2018. You know, I started off as a freelancer, moved into an agency, built up a team, and made a bunch of money like all these things, but I had no idea. I started the agency to survive and to never work for anybody else again.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my entire goal. So anything above and beyond that, I had no clue what was going to happen, but I simply said to myself, I'm not going out and working for anybody else again. That's pretty much that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And it's also great that you're sharing this on Twitter and you said about sharing the process. And this made me think about something that may be obvious to you, maybe like a brilliant discovery and a wow moment for somebody.
exactly, exactly. That's exactly what it is, Victoria.
And
It's
and we
like
think and we think that this is so obvious, it doesn't bring any value. But for somebody, when this may change completely their perspective and they may do things differently. And we don't
yep.
even realize. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. That's you're so spot on with that, because sometimes the simplest things to me, I'll show you one post that I did on LinkedIn that got so many impressions. Like it went to like 40, 50,000 impressions. And literally all it was is talking to people about getting out of their 9 to 5 or even starting a side hustle with while being at their 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And so many people tapped into that post that it was just like, whoa, I had no idea. Like this to me was just something that goes through my brain almost on a daily basis. But for other people, they're just like, oh, you made it really, really easy. And it's like, oh, okay, well, good. I'm glad, that sort of thing. So that's, I think, the real big thing. But you hit it right on the head. It's sometimes the most obvious things to me are the most complicated to others. And if you just change their perspective and you turn that
Yeah.
switch on, it might
Exactly.
open up some doors for them as well.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Simplifying because we tend to overcomplicate things, and when somebody
everything.
synthesize everything in a few sentences, like it's
Yeah,
it's so easy. It's like not easy. It may not be easy, but at least okay, I have clarity now. I understand what I have to do. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Like some people will say there's 30 steps to do this, and you're just like, no, you can do it in 3 steps actually
yeah,
if you just
yeah.
do these things. So, but no, that's really awesome. So, yeah, I think we're kind of coming up on time here, and I just wanted to
Yep.
say I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I can't wait to be on your podcast at some point. Hopefully, I'm gonna actually what
It's
I'm gonna
next
do
week.
next week. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you info about like timeline and all this other stuff. I would absolutely love your input input on it. Maybe it's something we can even talk about on your podcast, and like growth strategies and different things like that. But yeah, I would love to. I can't wait to chat with you, and I really appreciate you being here. And so I want to just kind of give you the floor, like. Do you want to have people like follow you somewhere, your email or anything like that? Feel free to share it. We'll also share it in the podcast notes at the bottom as well. But feel free to share where people can follow you and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would encourage people to go to saasminds.com and check. They can subscribe to the free newsletter. They're going to receive one growth practice for free each week. And they can also check the podcast, the SaaS Theory podcast. I know it sounds threatening because of the word theory, but the conversations I have in this podcast are very fun, and the people are awesome. So I invite you all to listen to the conversations. So yeah, and check the social media credential under this podcast to follow and to say hi, to send my message. I read everything. I engage. I'm not just a human being who likes to interact and talk about SaaS.
There we go. I love it. Yes. And I can vouch for that, because I reached out to Victoria out of nowhere and I just said, hey, I love what you're doing. I knew she was at her, to me, it's always, it's not about how many followers you have or how many you don't have. To me, it was just like seeing what you were doing. And I was like, I'm really interested. I just need to say hi. And if that's all the conversation is, that's completely okay. But long story short, I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to kind of go through this. And hopefully people will get a little bit out of this podcast.
Thank you very much. It was really nice to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. Bye. Well, you made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning into What is My Brain podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some value out of it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button or the follow button to get notified when new episodes are live. I'm out. Thank you.